Hi there, and welcome to another episode on the Let's Talk Wellness with Shal podcast. The vision of this podcast is to empower you with knowledge around holistic wellness, where I share my own experiences and my journey, and also talk to individuals across the globe. And today I'm very excited to welcome Neha. Neha is a yoga teacher and a wellness coach who blends the ancient wisdom of the Yoga Sutras and the Bhagavad Gita with modern mindfulness practices. As the founder of Soul Lumos, she guides individuals towards deeper self love, emotional balance, and inner alignment, both on and off the mat. Through practical tools rooted in ancient philosophy, Neha helps people cultivate a steady mind, compassionate self awareness, and a more intentional way of living. Hi, Neha, and welcome.
Hi, Shalini. That was such a beautiful introduction, and thank you so much for having me in your podcast.
I'm
Uh,
so excited that
so
you're
looking
here,
forward.
and maybe you can tell the audience where are you calling in from today?
So I live in Bellevue, Washington, and that's where I'm calling in from. And I believe you are also in this area, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. I'm so excited to have somebody from my town. And
Yes.
I was just gonna say, I think it's a nice, gloomy day, I think, outside today.
Yeah. Yeah. A little bit of sun on this side, but yeah, pretty gloomy otherwise in Seattle.
Awesome. So, with that, I know there's a lot to talk about from Yoga Sutras to Bhagavad Gita and everything else that you're doing in the community. I know you're doing some wonderful things and you're teaching and a lot in the community as well. So, I think just to start with, I would love for you to share just an introduction on, what is Yoga Sutra, what is Bhagavad Gita, just for the audience before we, dive a little deeper into this topic.
Absolutely. So, I got yoga introduced to Yoga Sutras in a more deeper way in 2024 when I went to Rishikesh for my yoga teacher's training. And I was really blessed to have a very good instructor. He was so good in his teaching style that I really absorbed the presence that he brought to the room, that it really drove me to go deeper into the subject of Yoga Sutras. The beautiful thing was that he told each and every story of the each and every principle in a story format. So it really engaged all the people that were in the room. And because of him, he literally rubbed his energy on me. I feel like he's the one who actually drove me into the philosophy. So I came back and I got so many books from Rishikesh. And the first book I started diving deeply into was Yoga Sutras. And it inspired me to share the knowledge of it also online. And my take on Yoga Sutras is that I've been practicing yoga for 8 years now, more religiously, I would say, like more in a disciplined way in the last 6 years. But I started my journey 8 years ago. What Yoga Sutras did for me is that it helped me, it taught me how to contain my energies and how to use them in the correct way. Because, as most people who practice yoga know, that each and every tool yoga offers, like breathing exercises, mindfulness, meditation, or even the physical asanas that we do on the mat, they all produce some kind of energy in your body. And sometimes you can cultivate so much of it that it is really hard to know what to do with it. And you may use it in pleasing your senses. You may use it in going out for like nice lunches, dinners, eating too much, traveling too much, or just using it in ways to please your own self. But you don't realize that this powerful energy can be used for so many better purposes. And how to use it is what the Yoga Sutras really deep dives into in 198 sutras that there are. So that is what drove me to like understand it and also bring it to my students through Instagram, through LinkedIn, and I'm sharing. I'm doing entire series on it right now as I'm learning along the way, because as many times as you read it, I feel like you get something new out of it, a new perspective out of it, and that's the beauty of it. And even the Bhagavad Gita, for example, like I have been reading Bhagavad Gita since I was a child, but the Sanskrit shlokas are very hard to understand, especially because Sanskrit is not a language that you learn in school unless like you want to like learn it, then you'll maybe find a instructor or something to teach you. But it's really hard to really understand it, even if you have like have a teacher or someone. So I've read it in Hindi, and every time I've read it, like as a child, I barely understood it, so I just read it for the sake of it to make my mom happy because she
Right.
wanted me to read it. But then, well, now that I'm getting more deeper into it, I'm understanding that it has so much to offer. Like the entire story, I just love how it starts. It starts in a war zone where Krishna is advising Arjuna, and Arjuna is in a dilemma to face his family or do the right thing, and he doesn't know what the right thing is because hurting the family in a way is morally wrong, but how can it be a right thing to do? And the way Krishna unfolds Bhagavad Gita is there in the war zone, and everyone will have their own perspective on it as they read the story. But there are some really nice things that I have taken away from the Bhagavad Gita, and I'm sure you have some questions for me ahead where I'll unleash more. But this is, yeah, this is what is my take on it.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I'm sure there's, like I said, there's a lot to talk about this, but yeah, I just wanted to set some context just so I guess the audience knows or understands that again, Yoga Sutras, right? There's 193, correct?
Mhm.
Aphorisms. So I know you've also talked a lot about that in detail.
Correct.
Later, share your Instagram, and obviously individuals can double click there to
Mhm.
learn more. And then I think from the Bhagavad Gita itself, again, just for the audience, right? It's one of the, Hindu scriptures, the Indian Hindu scriptures, where there's just a lot. I think I almost feel it's a book about life. I know we try to call this more as a spiritual book and a guide, but I definitely feel like there's so much where you can just break it down to day-to-day life and just very simple things on how we can practice and be a better person. So I'm sure we'll talk more on that, but thank you. Thanks for that intro. And so with that, I think I'll go to my first question, right? Which is, for all of the listeners who may be new to yoga philosophy. So how do the Yoga Sutras and Gita talk about self-love? Because I feel like self-love is just one of those misunderstood concepts of, that it's just overindulgence or it's ego. But I'm just curious, what do these philosophies talk about when we think about self-love?
That is so, like, that's such a beautiful question, firstly, because I actually love teaching my classes with the theme of self-love. And the way I cater it is I bring some words in the class, I'll say sentences that really bring people back to themselves. And I feel like as a young person, like growing up in India, I have seen my mom like sacrificing. I've seen my dad sacrifice in different ways. I've seen how the family really like comes together, but like on the basis of like, oh, sacrifice. But that sacrifice in depth, if you really look at it, it's like sacrificing your own needs to please someone else's. And that may be like my mom putting me and my brother first, or she putting my dad first, and then lastly thinking of herself. And I've seen my grandmother do this the most. And I feel like as you age over time and you neglect your needs for a really long time, it plays out in your body in different forms. Like you may get sick, you may have different types of aches and pains, you may end up with so much that has built up over time that yourself don't know that, oh, how did I end up here? And like, why is this so bad? Like, why does like this age have to be so bad? But it's not the age, it's just the time that you were growing into this age, you neglected yourself for so long. And that is the really big part of the knowledge that's missing. And the Bhagavad Gita talks about this in a very beautiful way. And the way Krishna like unleashes the information, it really makes you think that, oh my God, like, am I really loving myself? Am I really, because you can never give somebody from an empty cup. We have heard this phrase so many times. And why I say this is because when I was reading Bhagavad Gita as like with more understanding and diving more deeply into it, he explains the three types of qualities that a human being faces in their entire life: sattva, rajas, tamas. Sometimes we see that one quality is playing more than the other in our lives, but we don't define ourselves completely by that one quality. Like, for example, sattvic people are more like they are more calm, more patient. Rajasic are more action oriented, passionate, doing one thing to the next. They don't know how to breathe and like sit still. Tamasic people are more like lazy. They're defined as lazy. They procrastinate, delay things. But if you see in a human's journey, different times we will feel different things. Sometimes in our life we will be like we want to procrastinate, we want to slow down, and that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing because sometimes you've done too much that your body is asking you to slow down. So you might have to listen and slow down. Sometimes you're very action oriented. You don't know how to take a calm, like you are moving from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. And maybe like in that moment or in that time of your life, you have that much energy to do so many things. And that usually happens around the age of 25 to 45. But again, like it's not constantly there. You will have the times when you will feel lazy, and you will have times when you will feel very calm, patient, and clear. It depends on your environment. It depends on the people around you. It depends on what your state of mind is. And the Bhagavad Gita introduces these things so people understand that they are not supposed to identify themselves with one quality of theirs, because it is not permanent, it is temporary. So, again, you will be in this phase, but you will also come out of it. So, it is about moving from one thing to the next. Sometimes we over identify ourselves as being too lazy or being too hardworking. And then we forget like we can be all of those things in one lifetime. And that is self love, is the real understanding of who you are as a person. Because only when you are able to identify, know who you are, and so many versions of yourself that you can be, then you are making decisions with a clear mind. You know which guna or which quality is acting up right now, and then the way you are speaking will affect it, the way you show up will affect it, so you won't be so hard on yourself. And I have experienced this a lot in my life, where I've been very hard on myself, highly critical. The most biggest critic of me was sitting in myself. Like I felt like it was really hard to break free from that, and I somehow acquired that because I'm the oldest child in my family. I have we grew up kind of in a joint family environment. There were four youngers after me. So I felt like I was not only taking the burden of one set of parents, but also two others who shared so many of their things with me. And most of the times, it's the women in the family that sacrifice, that give too much. Then they are holding so much in them that maybe, I don't know why, but I was so young when they started sharing these things with me. I didn't even know how to process it. And barely while learning how to process it, I had my own life and I had my own set of challenges, my studies, my stuff, and and they also told me that I was the oldest one in the family. So I have a lot of responsibilities to be a good example for the younger ones. So carrying that much, and then coming at 25 years old, I was depressed, anxious, and I had no reason for I didn't know why. I felt something was wrong with me. I felt like I was not good for anything. And literally at that time I felt like I was not good at anything in life. And if somebody asked me at my lowest point, like, what are you proud of about yourself? I don't think I had a single thing to say. So when I started my yoga journey, it was around that time. I showed up on my mat alone. I literally had a mat next to my bed. I would literally wake up at 4 a.m. and roll onto my bed, onto my mat, and did my Surya Namaskars and some breathing exercises. And I stayed consistent for 6 months. And I felt a change, like something inside me was changing. I was feeling like I had more energy to do things in the day, which I felt I was always lacking before. Always felt so tired and like I did not have energy to do anything. But that changed when I started doing some yoga activities. Then I decided to go for my yoga teacher training, which I went during the COVID, and it helped me deepen my knowledge, my practice, and give me the right environment around the right people where I could cultivate it. Because sometimes when you are in the same environment and trying to do something new,
Yeah.
it does not really stick because the environment still pulls you back. So when you move out and create a new environment and new energy and be do it with different people, then you're able to bring it home and really like keep yourself drawing back into it from time to time, and you can cultivate new energy around you.
Wow. Yeah, I'm just listening. I'm just thinking there's so many concepts in here because I think for one, because again, I'm a part of a lot of nonprofits, so I talk to a lot of girls and, women. And so I see there's a common theme, right? Which is again,
Mhm.
prioritizing yourself. Again, we talk about self-love and a very common term in the tech world, imposter syndrome, where you're constantly doubting your own abilities. Can you do something? Are you good at anything? So I know you brought up that as well. So, I feel like, again, the foundational underlying theme in all of this, right, I think stems from bringing and putting some effort and time for yourself. And I feel, again, just I know I come from an Indian background. I know you do as well. But I
Yes.
also feel it's that community and the upbringing, right? Where, again, that focus and prioritization was never there, right? And
Correct.
I've seen that with
Correct.
my mom, a lot of, family around me. So I think that was something I consciously wanted to change, right? And that is why I obviously started, going through a lot of these communities and sharing, my journey and my experiences so that hopefully it helps somebody somewhere pick up
Right.
something in their life.
Right.
So yeah, no, so thank you for sharing. I love kind of that journey you've been and how yoga and just slowing down, helping yourself, come out of those dark moments. I think that's just it's a vulnerable thing, right? And I know not many people are comfortable sharing. So thank you for just kind of sharing your journey and how I guess yoga and tools have helped you come out of this as well. So thank you. Yeah.
Like I said before the podcast, that you have a very calm energy. So I feel like, I felt very open to be able to share it. So thank you for creating that.
No, no, thank you. Thanks for sharing this. That's awesome. I think the next question I have is, can you share a Yoga Sutra or Bhagavad Gita verse that has personally shaped your relationship with emotional balance or just self-compassion, kindness?
So one from Yoga Sutra is the Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha, which is the Sutra 2. I think you also mentioned it in one of your videos, but I think this is one of the most amazing Yoga Sutra. I feel like all the Yoga Sutras kind of talk about that thing in different ways following that one. And it means that creating less fluctuations of the mind, because your chitta vritti, mind and thoughts, they are always like in a loop, going from one to the next to the next to the next, and they can't stay still. That's their nature. As we go back to the Bhagavad Gita's reference, that's rajas. It's like action, like one, next, next, next. So they are not sattvic. To cultivate sattvic energy, you need to come out of that mind state and reach to other levels of your body, like your heart center, or like completely quiet down and sit in stillness and practice focus, like placing your gaze, placing your focus between the center of your eyebrows and just closing your eyes, or candle gazing, and like such as some methods that can help you come to stillness. So Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha is my favorite one. And then one I recently did is the Yoga Sutra 15, which is Drishta Anushravika Vishaya Vitrashnashya Sangya Vairagyam. And this one talks about detachment and sense pleasure. Because as humans, we have desires. We want to experience the world in beautiful ways. We want to travel to places. We want to please our senses of like eating and uh, tasting like really delicious meals around the world, and meeting people, getting massages if we are into like spa and stuff. But sometimes there is a balance, and we shouldn't overindulge in eating. We shouldn't overindulge in drinking. Like there is a balance to everything. Doing everything in limitation is great, but doing everything too much can sometimes play a different effect later on in your life, or quite immediately in your life as well. So that's what this sutra talks about, is how to control the senses, because senses are always drawn to the external world. And as long as you will keep drawing to the external world through the sight, through the smell, through the taste, through the touch, you will not be able to really go within. So you need to learn to control the senses. And the way it talks about it is that learn to control one sense at a time. So maybe like first your sight, then maybe the smell, maybe the taste, and that's how you will be able to learn to control all five senses and really go internal. Because your focus is what you want to cultivate through your practice, and your focus is what's going to drive your energy into doing things you really care about. Because your senses will always keep you distracted.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, no, that's really awesome because I'm just thinking about it because I know a lot of times we hear just focus on the things you control and just not
mm,
worry about things you don't control, right? So I think it all comes back again to where do you put your energy, right?
correct.
Because, and I think to your point, how do you draw that line?
How
Because
you
it's
draw that line.
always this, have you done too much? Have you done too little? And what is
Correct.
too much? Because it's so subjective, obviously, right? Because what it is for me could be completely different for somebody else. It could be different for you. But I think I don't know, that's also one of those things, I don't know, I struggle quite a bit. But
Yeah.
where do you draw that line and how much is enough?
Mm. And
So,
also how you talk to yourself, right? Like if you make a mistake and you're really punishing yourself, being too hard on yourself, then you're not really able to grow out of it. But if you are talking to yourself in a way that, yes, like, you are a human, this is one of the things that you are just born with, and you have to learn to control it so you can do better things in the world, because sense pleasure is just one way of experiencing life. But if your senses are closed, then what else can you experience in life?
no, I love that. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Definitely the other one, the mind fluctuations. Yes, I definitely use that a lot because, again, it's all monkey mind, right? We all go through this all the time, right? And
Yes,
even
yes.
after years of trying to get into meditation and a practice,
Yeah,
there are still days when I lose it, right? Because I just need to come back and just bring myself back because we're just human and there's so many emotions, so many things that happen around us all the time.
absolutely. And that is so true. Monkey mind. Like, you must have read, I mean, Jay Shetty's book as well. He mentions it, right? Yeah.
Yes,
I
yes,
really like that book, Think Like a Monk.
yes, yes. Oh yeah, is one of my favorite books, but yeah.
Yes,
Awesome.
beautifully.
All right. So, I know we can keep talking about this, so I'm going to try and bring this to at least few more questions before we wrap here. So,
Yeah.
how can mindfulness and breath work help regulate emotions when we feel disconnected, overwhelmed, or just, out of sync with ourselves?
Right. I think breathing exercises is the more breathing is the most fascinating part of yoga, because a lot of people feel like, oh, what is there in sitting and breathing? As a lot of people tell me, like, sit and breathe, like, what is that even? And I'm like, it's really hard to put it into words unless you sit and experience it with me. Because I feel like it can be a very boring activity to do, but it can also be, if a guide is there and it's a person is helping you along the journey, then it can be a little more easier. Because if you're just doing it based on like YouTube, and you're not going to be able to really sit and focus, you need to build the correct environment to really do it. So, breathing exercises, the way I would put it, is the way of detoxifying your body, because we don't oxygenate ourselves enough. Some of us are not blessed to live in a country where you can really get fresh oxygen, especially like in India. It's very hard. But like again, like so many of us live in countries where there is oxygen, but you barely go out, you barely spend time in the nature, you don't go hiking. So breathing is a very simple way to do it sitting at home. And there are exercises like Kapalbhati where you do fast exhales, and what it really does for your body is it detoxifies it, because the carbon dioxide is releasing very fast. And then the space that is created from that, you can do deep breaths afterwards to help oxygenate your body. And when you breathe as in like you are feeling the air go inside your diaphragm. So most of us are breathing only till this level. We are not even going deeper. So when we bring our awareness to that level, then our body is really oxygenating overall, and the cells are receiving the energy, and then we have more energy to do more things in the day. So I think
Yeah.
breathing is such a important part of the practice, and like Anulom Vilom is another really great practice, which is alternate nostril breathing. And like sometimes we are very overactive with our left side of the brain where we are too practical, or sometimes we are very creative and living in like a delusion kind of a world. And that can also happen because, again, our brain cells are not receiving the right amount of oxygen. So when we do Anulom Vilom, like taking in breath from one side, exhaling from another, and then breathing again from another, exhaling from the next one, what it really does is helps you to cultivate balance and clarity. So you are able to think clearly from your right and the left brain. And then you're making better decisions in your day. You won't be feeling like the world is overwhelming you. You will be more ready to, take the best decisions and move forward.
Yeah,
So yeah.
no, I love that because I feel, I have, worked with a couple of folks, right, on again, just breath work at a time when they were at a pretty low or a bad phase in life, right? And I have seen there's been a huge difference where the individual was obviously able to get out of that, space and that time in life just through breath work. I know it sounds very simple and to your point, right? And a lot of people find it, oh my God, it's just like, are you just going to be sitting there? It's just like meditation, right? People just want to magically think that they can close their eyes and they can just meditate for hours. Well, if it was that easy, then everybody would do it. But the reality is to meditate, it's a practice, just like everything else, right? And it's going to, I don't know how long it's going to take for everybody because we're at different phases in our life, right? But you
Correct.
have to start small. So I think it's the same with breath work. I feel like a
Yes.
lot of people don't realize the benefit and the value of it until they practice over time. But again, you need the
Mhm.
discipline, you need to put the time, the effort. I mean, just like everything else in life, right? So you got to first have your mindset and say that, people have tested this for years. So there must be something. And just have an open mind to start to learn somewhere. And it all starts with maybe 10 minutes a day. I mean, and
Yes.
again, and you build over time. So, I can totally relate to breath work. And I think even personally in my own life, it has helped. It continues to help every day.
Mhm.
With just, life throws, like I said, so many challenges, so many things you don't expect, right? But I feel like each time if there was an anchor that I would say that
Yeah.
brings me back to reality, that is breath work.
Breath work.
So yeah, absolutely. I can totally talk about this and align with a lot of those techniques and the pranayama, that you mentioned, right? I'm sure we probably need an episode two on that one, but this is awesome. I know we've definitely kind of hit our typical 30-minute-ish here
Mhm.
in our conversation, and this has been super, I would say enjoyable for me. I've definitely learned a lot about you, Neha, in this conversation, and I definitely think this has benefited the audience. I'm sure they've heard a lot of different terms for today, from Yoga Sutras to the Gita to the importance of breath and, also self-love. So I think you've touched on a lot of topics here today. So really thank you for this amazing conversation. And before we end, I would love for you to share with the audience where they can find more about you, how can they follow you and reach out to you, if they have any questions.
Thank you, Shalini. Thank you for all your questions. They were so well thought out that it really brought out the best conversations. And so, all thanks to you for making this amazing, like, looked so amazing. Um, And for my viewers or for people who want to learn about yoga, like I share about Yoga Sutras on Fridays on Instagram at Soul Lumos. Um, I also have, if you live in Washington State, I have a hiking community. So if you're interested to be a part of it, then DM me on Instagram and then I can share you and we can connect more. I also recently started my YouTube channel and it is called Soul Lumos as well. So you guys can also follow me there. and I would love to connect with you all. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Neha, for being with us today.